The China decision, which is, I think, the most controversial one that the company has been through, is one that, in hindsight, we could have done earlier, because that market is growing more quickly. I don't think we would have. I don't think we would have changed the decision. I don't think it would have. But I think earlier is better.
Mm-hmm. That's a decision. This was the decision to essentially self-censor the site in China. And I know that you've been a vocal defendant of that action. And I think I'd read at some point you said it would have been arrogant to tell a country how to run itself. But I'm curious. Last week, I believe it was Sergey who came out and said that it seemed to contradict that. And he said it would be reasonable to stand on principle against censorship and not operate there.
We actually went on the specific story. It turns out that what he said was consistent with what I say. And so, in fact, it appears to have been either nuanced or being misquoted or something. In the China decision, the problem we have is we have 110 million Chinese getting on the internet, and they would benefit from the things that Google offers, both in terms of the information as well as the access. And the problem is that if your mission is to serve all the world's citizens, it doesn't say excluding Chinese. And so we faced that as a moral challenge, and we spent an awful lot of time debating this, and we decided ultimately that we would delete some of the things from the search engine that are not legal under Chinese law. This is a relatively small number of things, but obviously it's the things that people care a lot about, who worry about these things. And we decided to do a couple of other things that are notable. One is that we're the only organization that notes that we deleted something. Now, this seems like a minor thing, but it's actually very important, because the end user then knows that some information was withheld from them by their country's laws. And the second thing, which is I think the most important thing we've decided to do, is to not put personally identifiable information in China, so that people who do things that might be an issue with Chinese authorities will not be subject to the current laws within China with respect to their emails and so forth and so on. And we think that that provides an appropriate end-user protection from our perspective, and we're not going to be involved in any of these sort of terrible stories of people being investigated and so forth by the secret police and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, so how does that gel? I'm not quite sure I understand. Maybe you can explain for us. When Sergey said it would be reasonable to stand on principle against censorship and not operate there, was he... How is that consistent with...
Actually, just to be very precise,
yes.
we actually went through the transcript, and there's a whole other part of the transcript that was omitted in that quote. He was saying that, then there's a but. But we decided, based on essentially the two choices of lesser evils, if you will, that it was more important to serve the end user. And so we continue with our current China strategy.